everybody, it's Chris Eads, and online is Wootini here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. This week I did not go to the movies again. There was nothing new that I wanted to see, so I'll wait, but there's a good one next week. And the next few weeks there's movies coming out, so I will still get my money's worth. It's just maybe like this last month I'm not quite getting my money's worth off my AMC A list, but you know, it all evens out over time. And as for games, I am still playing Sea of Stars, and I am still very much enjoying it. I have slowed down slightly, so as to like enjoy it more and not rush through it. I did encounter one bit last week where I was just exploring an area, and all of a sudden these bad guys just showed up, and it turned out to be a boss fight. And I was like, crap. And I died a bunch of times. Like 3, 4, maybe 5 times. And I was just like, what am I doing wrong? This is really hard. And I got very concerned because Sea of Stars is not an RPG where you can just go grind and level up. And that's one of the things I like about it, is that there are no random enemy encounters. On the big wide open world map, you're just going from location to location. And then when you're in a location, you see the enemies on screen and you can fight them whenever, and you can get in the first hit, and it's fun. And you can leave out to the main world map and then go back into the area, and it will reload some of the monsters. You know, they'll respawn so you can fight them again, but you're not like constantly getting into battles where like going on a side quest over here is going to get you into so many more battles that you're going to like level up way high, and it's going to be great, and then you'll have an easier time of it. This game doesn't seem to be about the leveling up and grinding, which I appreciate, but it meant that when I was struggling with this particular boss battle, I was like, oh, how am I going to get past this? Because I was like, there's nothing I can do. Like, there's no new equipment that I can get, no new weapons or armor that I can get to make me stronger, and I would have to go back out and like try to grind and level up, which will take like a week. So I wasn't looking forward to that. I looked online, and like I saw a walkthrough where they were like, you know, this is an easy fight, and I was like, what? But they're like, just focus on this guy, and I'm like, well, obviously, because when I was trying to fight, like the first time I did it, I would fight both guys, and one of them has a shield that blocks, so I'm like, well, I can't do anything to him, so I'll focus on the other guy. But the other guy had like way more hit points, so he takes forever to kill. And I came back the next day and had a fresh start, and I said, okay, let me like rearrange a couple of characters in my party and try to focus on keeping everyone's health up. And it took a while, but I did eventually get past them, and it was okay. Because once the one guy finally went down, the other one went down like that, so I was like, okay. And then I continued playing. And then later in the week, I ran into 2 more of them, and that one was not as bad. I was like, phew. And also, trying to avoid spoilers here, but I just finished the water temple. There's a water temple. Spoiler alert. There's a whole water area where you're changing the level of water in order to get around and access the new areas and stuff. And I feel like Zelda just completely ruined water temples, water levels for games in the future. But this one's not nearly as bad. This one was very straightforward and perfectly fine. And I was like, phew. So I'm still very much enjoying that. And like I said, I've slowed down slightly so that I'm not going to rush through it. I want to try to savor it and enjoy it, and also make it last until the 20th when Spider-Man comes out. And then I also wanted to talk about in this episode something that I wanted to talk about last time, but couldn't because there was just too much to talk about and there wasn't room, and I didn't want to make a really super long episode. But I wanted to talk about the Nintendo Direct and the Sony State of Play that happened the previous week, 2 weeks ago now. The Nintendo Direct was interesting because of all the games they showed, there were a few that I was like, yes, interested. And weirdly, they're all remakes. There's the Super Mario RPG remake, which I never played the original Super Mario RPG because I didn't have a Super Nintendo. And I know it was available on like virtual consoles and stuff, but I just never played it. I will say, but like, because I'm not big on like the platforming Mario, but like an RPG, I'm like, yes, please. Because I feel like I played like one of the RPG sequels like at some point, like on like the DS or something. Um, and then I'm also looking forward to the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake, because I didn't play that either on the GameCube. I did play a Paper Mario game on the Wii, as I recall. I forget what it was called. But yeah, I know I played that Paper Mario game. So those are fun. So I'm looking forward to those. And then there's also another Code Recollection, which I was like, oh, what's this? It's like a point and click adventure game kind of thing. This could be interesting, a little puzzle adventure game. And then it's apparently a remake of a DS game. And I'm like, what? How did I miss that? Like, I know there were like a bajillion DS games because it was like super popular system. So you can't play everything. But I'm like, this would have been up my alley, so I would have probably played this. But looking, it turns out that the American version of the DS game was actually called Trace Memory. And looking at the cover of Trace Memory, I'm like, oh, that looks very familiar to me. But then looking at screenshots, I'm like, no, I did not play this. I probably just saw the box and said, ooh, this looks interesting, but just never got around to playing it. So I will be keeping an eye on that remake as well. And then over on Sony side of things, their State of Play, which, again, with Sony, there's always a lot of like, you know, multiplayer action games and sports and stuff that I don't care about. Starting off with that Baby Steps, I'm like, what the hell is this? It looks insane. I'm looking forward to seeing. I would like to see more of it because it looks funny, but I don't think I would ever play it. And then everyone was all like, "Ooh, Final Fantasy VII," and I'm like, "Yay!" But because I didn't play the other, this is like the next section of the Final Fantasy VII remake, because they're splitting the game into like 30 chapters or whatever. I never played the first part. It's in my PlayStation Plus library, although apparently my friend says that there's a newer version that's updated that's better than that version. So whatever, because they don't know how to like constantly reissue the same game over and over again to get more money out of people. So I'm not really psyched for that. I'm like, whatever. There was another trailer though for the Avatar game that continues to keep me very interested in it. This is one where I'm definitely waiting for the review to see what the reviews are like, because I'm not super into when it turns into just a generic first-person shooter. But all the stuff of exploring Pandora and like the culture and everything, like that's amazing. I want to explore Pandora. It looks gorgeous. It looks amazing. I want to be in there. The only thing that would make it better is if it was in VR so it could be in 3D like the movies. And then you're really in it. They should totally do like a mini game in VR where it's not any of the shooting. It's just exploring Pandora and enjoying like a Pandora relaxation experience. That would be like amazing. I would pay for that, honestly. Then the other thing was there was another Spider-Man trailer, and I thought about not watching it because I thought about skipping that part of the video because I was like, spoilers. But if it had been like a story trailer, I definitely would have skipped that. But it was more about like some additional features that they've added to the game and whatever, and like showing off some of the new costumes, which I'm like, I don't care because I only want them in the original comic book costumes because I am a traditionalist and I don't like these weird ass costumes. So it was fine. And I like the idea that you can switch between Miles and Peter whenever, almost whenever. Certain story things will make you have to play as one or the other, but I like the idea of in free play you're just switching, and that's really cute and fun. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That just made me more excited for the 20th of October. And as you might recall in the last episode, I talked about how I'm planning on taking off that day of work, and I was going to actually order it and go get it at the store because I didn't want to have to sit around all day waiting for a delivery man that might not show up until 4 or 5 o'clock, which would suck and would totally be my luck, by the way. But now, over this past week, I have begun reconsidering that even further, and now I'm actually considering just getting it digitally. Because the thing is that back in the day, I would buy physical copies, because you'd buy a physical copy of a game because you could lend it to friends if you wanted to, but you could also trade it back in for store credit against buying another game. But they closed the GameStop, so I don't really trade in my games anymore. And then the other reason that you'd buy physical is because back in the day, when there was the option, it used to just be physical, but then when they were like, now you can download it or buy it on a disc, I would buy it on the disc because it took up less hard drive space. It would just install like a little file and then run off the disc. But now, these games, they basically just download the entire game off the disc onto your hard drive, and then you play off your hard drive. And the disc is just like, the key to unlock the game so that you can play it. So that's kind of, it doesn't make any sense to buy the physical copy because you're not saving space. I think the digital version is like 95 gigs minimum, and the disc is like 85 gigs minimum. So I'm like, it's the same thing. You're not going to save any space. It's not going to use the disc, so you might as well just buy it digitally. Because you're also not saving any money, because it's launch, and at launch it's going to cost the same physical and digital. Like later, if it was something where I was like, well, I'll get this later, then it might be like on sale digitally, so I'd buy it digitally. Or with Guardians or the Assassin's Creed Valhalla, like Best Buy had it on sale for like $30, and I'm like, oh well, I'll just go get that for $30 physical, because the digital version is still $50, $60. So I'll just get it for $30 because Best Buy is having a sale on the disc. But when you buy at launch, it's full price, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm kind of figuring I'll just get it digitally, and then I can just start playing it right away, and I don't even have to go to the store. I won't start at midnight though. Like that, I can't, because at midnight, like, I should be in bed. Even though I'm taking the next day off, I don't want to stay up for like a couple of hours playing Spider-Man. A, because that's when my husband likes to watch TV and movies, when I go to bed, and he can take the TV and watch what he wants. And then also because if I play it for a couple of hours, I'm going to be all revved up from playing Spider-Man that I won't be able to fall asleep. So it's just going to ruin everything. So I think I'll just download it, it'll preload, and then when I get up on Friday morning, I can have a little breakfast and then just jump right in to Spider-Man 2. That is my current plan. So come back next episode to see if I have thought of yet another plan, and how I'm doing on Sea of Stars. See you then. Bye!